Hi again guys, and welcome to another replay cast. This time we're going to be watching StuG Smerf. I think that's how you pronounce it. I just call him Smerf, because it's so much easier. So we're going to just say that. And he's in the StuG IV, and yeah, this tank is not particularly good as far as tier 5 tank destroyers go. It's the reward tank for completing the first set of personal missions. And yeah, it's not particularly good at all. It does get preferential matchmaking, but this thing is very limited in terms of mobility, view range, and penetration values. And yeah, this gun is basically the same as the top 75mm on the Panzer IV-H. It does get a bit of a gun handling, accuracy, and rate of fire buff over the Panzer IV-H, of course. But it's got the same pen, it's got still the 110 alpha damage. So, as a tank destroyer gun, it's not great. Especially at tier 5, where you've got the likes of the... well, a bit of a argument going on next to him. Friendly Panzer IV-H is being a bit of an arse and pushing a friendly Panzer 38NA away from the bushes. I did actually look up the stats of the Panzer IV-H, and he has pretty much just started playing the game, less than 1,000 battles played. But there is no excuse for being such a twat bag like that. Anyway, back onto the StuG. Yeah, this gun is not particularly competitive as a tank destroyer gun at tier 5. While there are guns that have similar alpha damage, the 76mm guns on the T67 and the Wolverine, for example, this does have one of the lowest alpha damages out of the tier 5 TDs. I mean, you've got the likes of the, StuG III-G, which is the direct competitor, you might say, to this tank, which has the long 75mm, the L70, with 135 alpha damage, 150 pen on standard ammo, and 194 on premium. So that kind of puts this at the back of the pack. It even has, the 110 penetration value on standard ammo that the Panzer IV-H's Top Gun has, as well as the 158mm of premium APCR pen. So yeah, penning things that are tier 6 in this thing is kind of troublesome, which is where the preferential matchmaking comes in. So then hopefully you won't be seeing too much of this kind of matchmaking, and this will be the absolute worst you can get. Well, I say absolute worst. You could probably end up having an OI on the enemy team, which is kind of the worst case scenario. Thunderbolts are not fun things to shoot at in this thing, though, I can imagine, as Smerf gets a lucky shot into the side there. That actually could quite easily have bounced off if it hadn't hit the part of the side that wasn't spaced. Because the Thunderbolt does have spaced armor on the sides that brings that part to 30mm total raw armor thickness, and pretty decent. At the angle he was at, that would have been enough to bounce the standard ammo shell that Smerf had fired. But his team have now lost the hill, and they have failed to take a single flank. Although that said, the little road that runs from H1 down to K3, they didn't even have to take that road because, well, the enemy team were already going down there, and, well, the tanks that were there either died or drowned like the enemy VK3001H. And now Smerf is taking the name up the hill, hoping to get shots on anything that this friendly A20 spots, but that A20 is getting out of there pretty quickly. He does not want to be anywhere near that hill. And while the Thunderbolt is dead, you can see the wreckage to the left there, there is still a KV-85 on 2 kills, as well as a whole mess of tier 5s, including an ELC, which probably has the 90mm gun. And there's also an SU-100 that will probably have the 122mm gun that thing gets. And there's also a Grant and a couple of T-34s on the enemy team. So there are quite a few tanks that A20 will not want to mess with. And the Grant has been spotted just out of render range for Smerf, so he's not really got any good shots on him. Grant was also hiding behind the little rock that does cover anyone coming down from the hill on C0. And there's the ELC. Smerf trying to put some shots towards him. Getting pretty unlucky. While the dispersion on this tank is not that bad as far as this gun goes at tier 5, it is far better in terms of accuracy when compared to how it is on the Panzer IV-H. As you can see, shooting a T-34 at this distance is not too bad at all, and it has more than enough pen to go through that tank, as you can see. And that was just standard ammo. Meanwhile, scores are fairly even. It's 6-5, but things are going to get a lot closer than this. And yes, this match is going to go the full 15 minutes. Not a particularly good result so far. Not many rounds that he's been able to put into enemy targets, though picking up that T-34 was a nice little boost to his damage count. Friendly OI there is only on 215 health. That's kind of what he gets for camping the base, to be fair. Yeah, I mean, ELC has popped up again. Smurf's desperately trying to get shots off at him. Either going high or going wide. ELC is a very small target. Puts a couple blind here to see if you can catch him moving away. Does not get lucky with those. Friendly Hetzer has gone down to that KV-85, who is now up to 3 kills. So he's definitely having a good match. Friendly SU-100 sitting on 2. And well, this is going to be a very campy match because no one's going to really spot anyone until it's in close range. The friendly light tanks are all pretty low tier now. The ones that are left alive. They did have an ELC, but he did end up dying, I think, on either on the hill or on K3. And the ELC is once again spotted, but gets taken out by the friendly T-28, who also gets spotted as he kills the ELC, and that's going to be the death of him. Once again, a kill for the KV-85, who is I was about to say is most likely to Smurf's left, and there he is. He is now proxy spotting the OI for anyone that will be trying to shoot at him. Friendly team do have a T-150 that can help, and there's one of the enemy type T-34s. And this is some nice free damage for Smerf here. This guy is focusing heavily on the OI, and well, the T-150 finishes him off with a shot into his side. As the KV-85 had hidden behind the building, there was nothing else for the T-150 to shoot at. So meanwhile, friendly SU-100 and friendly A-20 have managed to get themselves round up onto the hill and are now advancing towards the enemy base, and they've spotted the enemy Hetzer. Meanwhile, with the KV-85 behind the wall of the building, Smerf is taking this time to go and reposition, so he can maybe get some shots into the side of the KV if possible. Maybe get shots in the SAV that was spotted not too far away from the KV-85's current position. We shall see. But yeah, this tank, I can understand them giving something as mediocre as this as a first reward tank for the mission, well, the missions for personal campaigns. But honestly, this gun could maybe do with not being as... It can be derpy, despite being quote-unquote accurate. As I say that, as Smerf gets a couple of quick shots into the SAV and the Type T-34. Well, the gun could be okay if it was derpy. If it had better view range, you kind of have to go with binos on this instead of optics. if you want to really get anywhere. And Smerf does have an okay crew in this thing, from what I remember. When I was speaking to him about this crew, because we did play in a platoon with him in this tank a couple of times when we were messing around. When Circon was streaming some preferential matchmaking tier 5s, along with pointy-haired Jedi, well, I picked one tank. I picked the T14, and Smerf only had this as far as preferential matchmaking tier 5s go. So yeah, did not go well in the end. But yeah, this tank, if it had better view range, I think it would be a much better tank. Also, the mobility is pretty bad for a tank that has a pen value like this. Like 110 pen, you really do kind of need decent mobility to actually, you know, do anything. And as you can see, a top speed of 38 kilometers an hour, and that's going forwards. And in reverse of 10 is not particularly good. Currently trying to use these bushes as cover in case anyone spots the Type T-34 and the KV-85. It's now just down to Smerf, the SU-100, the A-20, the Panzer 38 NA, and the artillery versus an SU-100 who's been spotted over at the enemy base, and the KV-85 and the Type T-34, along with a T-80 who has not been spotted this whole match. So the enemy SU-100 is over there on the cap circle. We can't really see him right now, so we don't know what health he's on, and he is fighting against the SU-100 1 versus 1 because the A-20 is not in a position to shoot him. Meanwhile, Panzer 38 NA moving round to E7, maybe to try and help out the SU and the A-20. Not seeing anything until the Type T-34 pulls up in front of the friendly artillery and gets himself spotted. And now Smerf can finish this guy off. Unfortunately, that's not enough to save the artillery, as the T-80 was also there to shoot the artillery. Meanwhile, the enemy SU-100 has gone into hiding, and the friendly SU-100 and A-20 have not been able to find him. Panzer 38 NA is now over there trying to help them. Unfortunately, that is a stock Panzer 38 NA, so he's not really going to be spotting much of anything. Yeah, it's quite a sad little tank as far as tier 4 lights go, at least when it's stock. And now the enemy tanks are capping. That is most likely the KV-85, although the T-80 could be there nearby as well to help out. The friendly SU-100 has actually started coming back towards the friendly base. He's realised, okay, we need to reset this, with only 2 minutes left on the clock. I think the enemy team started capping when they realised that there was so little time left as well. And now there's 2 people in the camp, which can only mean that the T-80 is also capping along with the KV-85. SU-100 is getting closer now, and there's the KV-85 and the T-80. Smerf loading the premium rounds for the KV-85, as standard rounds do have quite the easy chance of bouncing. Finishes off the KV, and now the T-80. He does end up using a premium round there, and another one here. And then remembers, okay, I'm firing premium, and after this one, thinks, okay, might switch back to the standard rounds. Although the shell velocity might be useful here against the T-80, who is YOLOing past the SU, hoping to get around him, but unfortunately for him, Smerf is watching. Meanwhile, the friendly A-20 has been capping the enemy base, and there's less than a minute left, and it's just the enemy SU-100 left to kill. And they do not have time to cap either, unless they somehow manage to get a second person on, and there's the SU-100 sitting at the back there. He must have been on G1 for him to have just popped up just now, and Smerf is gonna get just enough into render range to see him, and this is gonna be important because otherwise this might be a loss. Getting unlucky with a couple of shots here and there, but landing a third one just in time to secure the victory. And so that was Smerf in his StuG IV in a tier 6 match. That was his ace tanker, and he got the defender medal for resetting the friendly cap on the KV-85. And he ended up doing 1,828 damage and 5 kills. That was only 943 base XP. However, this tank is just that bad that the requirements to get your ace tanker are actually pretty damn low. And we can see here that he made 30,000 credits and spent almost all of them because he fired almost all of his AP shells, and he fired 10 rounds of premium ammo. So he only made 348 credits profit, and that's with a premium account as well. He would have made over 9,000 credit loss if he'd been running a standard account. However, this was, as far as XP goes, however, this was actually really nice. With base XP boosted from 943 to 1,415 due to running a premium account, and then times by 5, and adding another 566 for this being a premium tank, he ended up getting 7,641 XP on the times 5. So very, very nice for Smerf there for XP. And looking back here, this was actually pretty much down to the KV-85 that most of Smurf's team were dead. Because as we can see, that guy ended up getting the high caliber award for his 2,152 damage. That guy must not have been happy that he ended up dying right at the end there. As he would have, I can imagine he would have liked to have taken that kind of damage match away with him. But unfortunately for him, Smerf and the StuG-100 on his team, who did end up spotting the KV and the T-80 at the end, managed to stop him from getting that result. So, I hope you guys liked this replay. It was always nice to get new tanks on the channel. I'll probably end up 3-marking this tank when I eventually get a crew for it that's, you know, decent. That said, it's not going to be the easiest thing to 3-mark, purely because it is a not particularly maneuverable tank. The view range is not particularly good, and the pen is not particularly good. The gun handling seems pretty decent, but the alpha damage and the pen being what they are, it's not going to be... it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So, when I eventually get the medium tanks and heavy tanks all done, I might do the TDs. We shall see. Because then I can just switch that crew that I've been using from the medium tanks and heavy tanks onto this thing, instead of training up a whole new tank destroyer crew. Anyway, thank you to Smerf for sending me this replay, and I do not blame you if you feel like selling this thing, because this thing is not a particularly good tank. Anyway guys, that's all from me, and I'll catch you on the next one.